Not everyone can be like me and Michael. What? Shut up. Spider Kiss by Harlan Ellison is the simply put, this is the best, the meanest rock novel ever written. That's why it's the only one enshrined in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, but it bites back. And I agree with that statement, actually. Much better than I thought it would be. I'm gonna have to give it a 10 out of 10, honestly, and I almost gave it a 9, and let me explain why. Okay, so Harlan Ellison was a genius, that's much is clear, ahead of his time. I originally got familiar with him from the movie A Boy and His Dog, because I like messed up movies like that when I was a kid. Had no idea that he wrote it, based on his book, so like that and the other big story he's known for, this one having been mostly forgotten by modern audiences, I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream, that had a very strange 90s cult horror CD-ROM game development, which he had a hands-on involvement in. Like no other that you've ever seen, you know, it has the same, like those two things, it has the same very pessimistic, down-to-earth, realistic tone and story arcs, and which is at one time shocking, another time anticlimactic, and makes you recognize the ugly side of humanity in the facade of what the rock and roll sensation back when rockabilly and rock and roll was new in America. So basically, one cannot shake off the sense that this is a little bit too real for reality, and there's a beautiful monologue about this exact thing in a meta fashion towards the end. And, you know, it had to come from someone who was both book smart and street smart, which is exactly, you know, that shows in the dialogue. The dialogue is very immersive, great. The pace is probably dated in the minds of most modern mashed potato brain commercial American, especially westernized, you know, attention span audience of today. So, anyhow, it is a cautionary narrative about how the inner beast in man and evil is unleashed when too much ego with too much fame and attention goes to one's head. But at the same time, it captures a sense of time and place that is now more or less a bygone era, late 50s, early 60s. But amazingly, the cautionary revealing aspect, which by the way has a gradual unfolding quality to it, is just so ahead of its time in many ways, but in a way where no story quite so shocking like this occurred that wasn't covered up by criminals in the underground part of fame, in the fame rock world, etc. So at times it does seem dramatic, I guess, but still a good story and unexpectedly gripping in certain parts. But as I said earlier, only because of the passage of time and the arguable degradation of standards in communication, it might not keep attention of most people. Unless you're a writing nerd, this is one of those books where the writing and the dialogue is about as good as it gets. And for me, I'm going to have some bias to affect my final score of 10 out of 10. So, also, unexpectedly dry and pessimistic can sort of wax and wane on your soul and be rather depressing and discouraging. So you do have to take it with a grain of salt, because it is truly mean and truly but that's kind of the point, is trying to make a cautionary tale, which I didn't expect. So I don't know what I expected. I've always heard so much about Harlan Ellison, and he's such a titan in sci-fi, but it's interesting to see that he wrote more pulpy novels that had more to do with like the dark side of pop culture and these more sociological and cultural things that fascinated him, and about revealing the truth. It almost seems as though I don't know, because I don't know much about him, but it almost seems as though, coming from that generation of rock and roll being so sensational, this really dry, fun, cynical, pessimistic hatred of this facade that was ensnaring so many of his peers, perhaps. Maybe at one time or other he was another fan or sucker of these pop culture icons. And how many of them are remembered now? Elvis, maybe? So, like, he was right about a lot of these things anyway. A lot of it was shallow. Even though, I have to say, I like rockabilly music. I listened to so many albums while listening to this entire book, and it just made it better, so... Anyway, yes, it's just a solid, good novel with classy stylistic touches that for 1961 I did not expect it to be so like have such a modern, cynical tone that was just like way ahead of its time. And it's kind of pure and simplistic in its one note story, but I also kind of like that about it. Getting to the point's kind of, if you don't like style of storytelling in the little nuances of writing and dialogue, which I mean, this person has this Harlan Ellison has a amazing transportative, immersive writing ability that it's just. I feel spoiled off of this book, honestly. Like, I expect this standard of quality writing in all books now, and now I'm getting spoiled on it. So anyway, this book really is like getting mugged in a dark alley after seeing something shiny and chasing it back there. And Spider Kiss is an appropriate title for that. So if you like that sort of thing, definitely check it out. I recommend it. I give it a 10 out of 10 for being true to itself and delivering on its promises and a little something extra, a little surprise. I know it's going to haunt my memories in a good way for the rest of my life. So, anyhow, it's just one more thing. It is pretty cool that he had that most likely experience that only comes from real life and passion for knowledge, information, and sociological observations as well. That tell interesting story arc paradigms through flawed characters in the real world, of which he had a long history, I believe, of actually having associations with. The next book I really want to read by Harlan Ellison, before I move on to the more classic sci-fi works that I haven't even touched yet, not counting the movie A Boy and His Dog, would be Web of the City, which was, he didn't write very many novels. He was known for screenplays, short stories mostly, and television, TV writing, and that sort of thing. But he wrote so much, and his influence, I'm probably going to start to see it everywhere. So can't wait to read that. But I have the thing about when I discover an author, I really like reading things in chronological order most of the time. So anyway, it's interesting to try to get inside authors' heads, especially since he's not around anymore, to really try to think how like make inferences and really like think about their personal life and different, like the story of their life and how it reflects in the works they do and the state of mind and their transformations of the things they valued and how that portrays. I love doing that, especially like doing that with Stephen King books. I'm doing that currently, because he's always been my favorite author since I was a kid, like rereading all of his books in chronological order. So I recommend that too if you're a super nerd about writing in general like me. So books that tell the truth are the best.